What is up, everybody? It's me, Chad, aka Invader Kush, as you see in the name. That is my gamer tag and stuff. I actually am not here to talk about video games, cannabis, or any of that. I'm here to talk about New Mexico, and specifically the differences between northern New Mexico and southern New Mexico. I've seen some of those videos, like northern New Mexico versus southern New Mexico, and to be honest, the first one is hilarious because it's pretty damn accurate. However, different areas of the state are also different. Not just the north and the south. When you go east-west and you start breaking off the state in different areas, the whole state is different if you want to go to that route. I'm from Otero County, and I can actually show y'all where I'm from, and I'm going to pop up a map right now. So I am from Otero County. It's this little area, whoop, 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 let me use my camera, right in the southern part of the state near El Paso. Blurp, 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 blurp. It's that purple county that looks like an L. I'm from that area, and from that area east towards Texas, on my camera, everything's backwards. So east towards Texas, my left is supposed to be the right. That's why I'm confused. So when you go towards Texas, in New Mexico, you're going to run into people who have like a Texan accent, and I fall into that as well, and I had no clue. However, my accent is going to be a little lighter than people like in Portales, Hobbs, or Roswell area. And Roswell's kind of a different place on its own, but we'll get into that a little more later. So I see a lot of videos where, oh, New Mexicans are like this, New Mexicans are like that. Yeah, New Mexicans may be like that in Albuquerque, in Santa Fe, in Farmington. That's just a random place up north that I wanted to name. However, when you go south, we're different. We even say Spanish words differently. For example, we don't call the little cookies we eat during around Christmas time or anytime, I love them, whatever. We don't call them bizcochitos. They're bizcochos down here. Simply because our bizcochos are just big. They're not itos. So that's one thing that confuses me when I go to Albuquerque. I'll see it called a bizcochito and it's tiny, and I come down south, it's a bizcocho and it's huge. So that's something that like kind of confuses me, and it confuses other people in Albuquerque because for some reason, people in Albuquerque think that Albuquerque is the only place in the whole state, and Albuquerque dictates what everybody does in the state and how they act. Like, it's not how it is. I do not have a Barqueño accent at all. They pronounce Spanish words totally different than I would, and I obviously don't talk like them. I have a draw and a twang, but it's light, just because of where I'm from. And I'm from a military town. My dad was in the Air Force. He's from southern Colorado originally, and my mom's from New Mexico. Her family's from Hatch. That's where they came from originally. So we're from the south. And once you move over to Alamogordo, the twang starts to happen. But like I said, I'm from a military town. So I grew up with all kinds of different people. People from other states, people from other nations. We had the German Air Force there for about 20-something years because the United States Air Force was training the German Air Force for 20 years for their aircraft. I mean, they're our allies, and we're helping them out. It's the least we can do for keeping military installations there for so long. I'm just joking. But we help each other, and it was really cool to grow up with that. So my accent's a little bit differently, or a little bit different than others. I might be able to pronounce German words a little more properly than someone else in New Mexico. Another example is I lived in Hawaii for a long time. I was in the military. So I have that accent too. When I actually got out of the military, I lived in Hawaii for a while, and so I picked up the pidgin accent. Yeah, hot rap. So some of the words I say are different. Like here in New Mexico, we have the Bataan Death March, or the Bataan Death March, as we say. I was actually scolded by a lady in Hawaii for calling it the Bataan Death March. She thought I was Filipino. I'm usually shaved and have like a fade, COVID. Well, when I was in the military, definitely. I had a shave, and it's pretty much bald head. So she thought I was Filipino, and I had no clue that it was the Bataan and not the Bataan Death March. So there's that cultural difference too. I mean, in Alamogordo, where I'm from, we had Filipinos. There's a lot of Filipinos in Alamogordo. Actually, I grew up having Filipino friends, and I've dated a few Filipino girls growing up due to the military base. And you know what? I grew up eating different kinds of food. I grew up eating lumpia. I grew up eating doners. I grew up eating, New Mexican cuisine, the green chile. And sometimes they will fuse those together and put green chili in certain things, and it's fucking amazing. So if you guys never had lumpia, you're missing out. If you never had pancit, you're missing out. Or adobo. Adobo is amazing. So growing up in where I'm from is totally different from the rest of the state. And I can say that for everyone else. Like, so if someone from Deming talks to me, I can tell that they're from Deming just by the way that they talk. They'll pronounce Deming different. They'll say Deming, 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 something like that. So they'll say it funny, and I just find it hilarious. I speak a little more proper too because my mother was a teacher and she wanted to ensure that I spoke well and people could understand me. So that's one reason why. But I do, however, tend to speak really fast, and I apologize if I'm doing that in this video. I tend to do that when I get a little nervous. So getting back to topic, I'm from that area, but however, I live right next door, bloop, in the county over in Doña Ana and Las Cruces now. So once I moved back to New Mexico and I moved to Las Cruces specifically, a lot of my friends here started to catch on that I had an accent because I'm from essentially eastern New Mexico. It's technically like southeastern New Mexico, south central eastern New Mexico, because I'm pretty much south center in the state where I'm from. But it's considered like southeastern New Mexico because we do have that Texas influence over there. I mean, where I'm from, it's very, 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 very conservative. We're known for the Harry Potter book burnings back in like 2006. Yeah, I'm not proud of that one at all. So, moving on. We'll move on from that. Yeah, so someone from like Las Cruces, going to talk totally different from me from Alamogordo. They're going to have more of like a Spanish accent. When I say Spanish, I mean like Mexico Spanish accent. The Spanishes differ in New Mexico too. When you go up north, their accent is weird. To me, it's weird. It's alien because we don't really hear that often. But however, in New Mexico, a lot of people do speak a dialect of Spanish that is considered to be like a lost language. It's an ancient Spanish that was brought here when the Spaniards came initially. And since New Mexico is so rural and we've been so isolated in our own state, I mean, a lot of people don't even realize that we're a state. So because of that, we've been able to hold on to our culture very well. We've been able to hold on to the languages very well that we've had here, including a lot of the Native Americans. A lot of the reservations and a lot of the people here speak Native. It's not uncommon to go somewhere in New Mexico and hear somebody speaking a native language. It's just how it is. You drive up to near Mescalero and they'll have billboard signs, you know, welcome to Mescalero, and then they'll have it in Apache, you know, or whatever the dialect is called. I could be ignorant, it could be called something else, because certain languages, they're not called the language of where they're from. Like, Filipinos don't speak Filipino, they speak Tagalog or they speak Ilocano. There's actually, I think, thousands of different dialects in the Philippines. So, you can't really like call it what it is. So, I'm not too sure. My apologies, I'm not Apache, so I'm not sure what the language is called. It could be called Apache. Cool for me if it is. If it's not, please correct me. That would be cool. I'm always down to learn something new. I think that has to do with my upbringing, where I'm from, because I grew up with so many different cultures and I was so intrigued by it. And being in the military, moving around, so many times, I was even in Iraq, I got to experience different cultures, and it's amazing. And that's why my accent is going to be different, probably from a lot of other people in the state. Because I'm from a military base, I was in the military, I lived away from the state for a while, but I'm also from an area of the state where we have a twang and a drawl. So that is something that never changes. When you go to, like I said, people on the reservations, they're going to talk a little bit differently too, mostly because some of them do speak with the native language, with what their native language is. I mean, there's so many different dialects of native languages here in the state that I don't even want to like start naming them. But that's one reason why you're going to hear those accents, because sometimes that's their first language, then they learn English, and sometimes it's both. In New Mexico, you can get away with not ever speaking English or learning English. You can get away with speaking Spanish almost your whole life. There's people in New Mexico, actually my neighbors, they don't speak a lick of English. But you can get away with that here. In New Mexico, we don't have an official language. Actually, Spanish is a protected language in New Mexico. And it's like almost like not an official language, but you can get all of your government documents in Spanish. They do some hearings in Spanish. A lot of our lawmakers, they will translate both. They will say what their speech is or what the law is, whatever. They'll say it in Spanish, and then they'll say it in English. And I think they start the legislation day, correct me if I'm wrong, with certain Spanish things. And actually, if you look on the New Mexico crest, I should have found a picture of that and put it up. There's actually a Mexican eagle and an American eagle on the crest together, signifying our respect for Mexico and our history as Mexico, because we were Mexico. What it represents is the eagle is shielding the Mexican eagle, because the Mexican eagle is naturally just smaller than the American eagle. It's technically not an eagle, come to find out. It's more of like a hawk, whatever. We're not going to get into that. But anyway, it has the American eagle with its wings spread out with the Mexican eagle on the bottom, like it is almost like on the Mexican flag. And it's shielding the Mexican eagle, representing that we have that culture, we have that respect with Mexico. And, and that's true today, especially in southern New Mexico, because if you go to El Paso, it's different than anywhere in Texas, and we share a lot of the similar cultures together. Where I live right now, I'm only 30 minutes from El Paso, sometimes 25, because certain areas of this area, it's like New Mexico, Texas, like your neighbors in Texas and you're in New Mexico. So our cultures are really intertwined together, and it's more of a Mexican culture versus like a Spanish culture up north. Because up north, they're 3 hours away from you. If you don't know and you're not from New Mexico, this state is huge. It's the 5th largest landmass-wise state in the nation. So it's huge. Where I'm from, down in the south, here, and you got to go up here. There we go. I'll get this one day. Up here, that's 3 hours. 3 hours from where I'm from to Albuquerque. And if I want to go to the capital, Santa Fe, that's 4 hours. So that's why it's so different, because we're so far from each other and we can be isolated and have different cultures. Also, Albuquerque has more of a Spanish influence because the Spaniards were predominantly more in northern New Mexico. They were all over the state, but they're known to be more in the north, and they stuck around longer in the north. Actually, that portion of the state at one point was New Spain, Nuevo España or whatever. So that's the reason why. I mean, in Las Cruces, there's a lot of like Spanish influence. I mean, we have Old Mesilla, which is like an old Spanish town. But in Albuquerque, you can see it a lot more, especially in Santa Fe. In Santa Fe, they actually have a lot of ordinances when it comes to the buildings. They can't be a certain height, and they have to appear a certain way. They have to, I think, look, what is it? They have to look like pueblos almost. So when you go to Walmart, it looks like a pueblo, like one of the pueblos. It's kind of cool. There's ristas in the front, and it looks like a pueblo, and you're like, that's Walmart? So that's one cool thing about the state too, is it's different everywhere you go because of the different influences. We have a lot of native influences in the state. We have a lot of Spanish influence in the state. Of course, Mexican influence in the state. We're so traditionally diverse here in New Mexico that it's hard to just generalize this in one area or one thing. So when I see these videos and it's like, oh, New Mexicans are like this, I'm like, oh, northern New Mexicans are like that. And that's mostly what I see is northern New Mexicans. So whenever we're represented anywhere, represented anywhere, we're normally just categorized as this porqueño kind of weird accent thing, because I don't have that accent, obviously. I don't have like a generalized New Mexican accent because of where I'm from in the state. So I get a little, not irritated, but it's like, because when I tell people I'm from New Mexico, they're, I don't really sound like you're from New Mexico. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not from Albuquerque. That's 3 hours north of me. I'm from more eastern part of the state where we have a draw and a twang. Depending where you're at, it's going to be thicker and thicker or thinner and thinner. But everybody where I'm from in that area, we do tend to have a draw and a twang. I'll game with them online, and we'll be sitting there just twanging it out, sounding country as shit. So, and that's another thing that they have up north. They have this thought process that we're all like hicks and rednecks, and we're dumb. However, I have my degree. I don't know. That's no big feat, but I mean, we're not dumb down here. It's just we're further away from Albuquerque. Because to be honest, a lot of people in Albuquerque don't leave Albuquerque, and they don't leave the city. They don't like visit Las Cruces. They don't visit El Paso. They don't go to Roswell. They don't go to Carlsbad. They don't, to see the caverns or stuff like that, or, to visit the area just to see the different parts of the state. They don't. So they categorize and they think Albuquerque is New Mexico. And there's a saying, we are New Mexico. And I'm just like, fuck out of here. Because southern New Mexico actually produces 2/3 of the state's funding because of the oil and because of all the military installations that we have. Just in southern New Mexico, we have 3 military installations. Albuquerque has 1. And then they have Sandia Labs, which brings in a lot of money too. But we also have the White Sands Missile Range, which brings in millions of dollars. Holloman Air Force Base on its own racks in about, I think, $3 million or $5 million a day. because they have a lot of testing out there. And White Sands, I'm not sure how much they make, but they make a lot of money too daily. So that goes to the state, a lot of it, and some of it goes to the federal government. But when it comes to state funds that we get, a lot of it comes from the oil fields in eastern New Mexico, like in Hobbs, and I think there's some near Carlsbad and Clovis. So that's one thing that they forget. I'm like, well, yeah, you guys may have a big city, but we have a lot going on down here too that you guys just forget about. The White Sands National Monument, beautiful, fucking love it. It's only about 45 minutes from me. I grew up going there because it's closer to Alamogordo than it is Cruces. It's only 15 minutes from Alamogordo. So we grew up going there, like in Easter and stuff. Beautiful. If you guys don't know what it is, if you've never been there, I recommend going. If you're driving through, because in America, if you're driving from California, from one side of the nation to the other, you're normally going to go through New Mexico. So, and it's normally through Highway 70, where it goes right through it. Or you'll go through Route 66 area. If you want to go to the old Route 66, you can. It's kind of beat up, but it does go directly through Albuquerque's downtown. So that part of Route 66 is still alive, but there's other roads that you can use. However, Highway 70, you can essentially go straight to California on Highway 70 and get there the whole way almost. There's a few roads you change. Once you go to California, I think you hit Highway 8 or something like that. It's been a few years since I've driven there. So, I mean, you can go through and check out White Sands. It's fucking beautiful. It's a gorgeous place. So I just really wanted to touch base on differences of New Mexico. I mean, maybe I should just do like a reaction video of like, Southern New Mexican reacts to this video, because it's different. I mean, we're totally different. We don't even call, I don't even know what they call them up north. We call them luminarias. They're the bags with the sand, and you put the candle in and it lights up during Christmas. Tell me what they are in the comments, because I don't know. We call them luminarias down here. You know, we don't call them, I think it starts with an F. To me, when I hear it, I'm like, Figaro? What the fuck? So I just wanted to kind of touch base, let everybody know that we're here. We're down south, and we're a little different. So even the news coverage, they don't really cover the south. And most of the southern New Mexico coverage is done by El Paso. And you know, you can see it whenever you're in the state. There's a clear bias in the state for Albuquerque and Santa Fe. And I guess that's just how it's always been. They think they're better. Which is fine. They can be better. They got all that crime up there, and I'll be happy down here with less crime. But jokes aside, y'all have a good day. If you have any questions, let me know. I don't know how this video is gonna fucking do, to be honest. I'm sounding like a typical New Mexican guy not giving a shit, or Southern New Mexican guy not really giving a fuck. But I just really want to just kind of touch base. I don't really see a Southern New Mexican really doing much videos, or us being really represented by anything. The whole state's usually represented by Albuquerque, and that's just far from the truth. The whole state's different. Everywhere you go is going to be different. So y'all have a good day. Yeah, if you have any questions or anything, let me know. And yeah, shoots.